August 15th, 1953. Paramount Pictures, Hollywood. The executive conference room. Tension so thick you could cut it with scissors. Studio Head Y. Frank Freeman sits at the head of the table, his face red with fury. Around him, a dozen department heads look uncomfortable. At the center of the storm, one small, elegant problem named Audrey Hepburn. "She did what?" Freeman's voice echoes off the mahogany walls. "She went to Paris," repeats production manager Don Hartman, consulting his notes nervously, "for her Sabrina wardrobe. Instead of using our costume department." "Our Oscar-winning costume department," Freeman emphasizes, his knuckles white as he grips the table edge. "Yes, sir. She chose a designer named Givenchy. Nobody's ever heard of him. Some French kid with his own little fashion house." Freeman's response is volcanic. "We have Edith Head. Edith Head, 8-time Oscar winner, the most respected costume designer in Hollywood. And this nobody actress decides she knows better than Paramount Pictures?" The room falls silent. Everyone knows what this means. This isn't just about clothes. This is about power, control. The fundamental question of who decides how a Paramount Pictures film looks. The studio or the star? What nobody in that room understands yet is that this moment, this argument about one actress's wardrobe choices, will change everything. Not just for Audrey Hepburn, not just for Paramount Pictures, for the entire relationship between Hollywood and fashion, forever. This is the story of the rebellion that started with a dress fitting and ended with a revolution. The story of how one young actress took on the most powerful studio in Hollywood and won. To understand why Audrey's decision to choose Givenchy was so shocking, you need to understand how Hollywood worked in 1953. The studio system was everything. Studios didn't just employ actors, they owned them. Every aspect of a star's career was controlled by the studio. What films they made, what roles they played, how they looked, what they wore. Costume departments were sacred territory. They were massive operations, employing hundreds of people. Designers, seamstresses, sketch artists, pattern makers. Entire teams dedicated to creating the look of every film. These departments had won Academy Awards. They had created the visual language of Hollywood glamour. At Paramount, Edith Head ruled supreme. She'd been there since 1938. By 1953, she'd already won 5 Oscars, with 3 more to come. She'd designed for every major star. Veronica Lake's peekaboo hair, Dorothy Lamour's sarongs, Grace Kelly's elegance. When you thought of Paramount Pictures style, you thought of Edith Head. The process was ironclad. A film gets greenlit. The costume designer reads the script. Sketches are created. The star comes in for fittings. The designer makes adjustments based on the star's input. But the designer is in charge. The designer has final say. That's how it had always worked. Until Audrey Hepburn decided it wouldn't work for her. Audrey was different from other Paramount stars. She'd come from theater, from modeling. She understood fashion in a way that most actresses didn't. She knew what looked good on her. More importantly, she knew what didn't. When she was cast as Sabrina Fairchild, the chauffeur's daughter who goes to Paris and returns transformed into a sophisticated woman, Audrey understood immediately that this role was about transformation, about fashion, about the power of clothes to change not just how you look, but who you are. The script called for two distinct wardrobes. Sabrina before Paris, simple, girlish, unglamorous. Sabrina after Paris, chic, sophisticated, devastatingly elegant. The transformation had to be believable, complete, revolutionary. Audrey read the script and knew this couldn't be just another Hollywood costume job. This needed to be real fashion, authentic Paris fashion. The kind of clothes that actually would transform a young woman from servant to sophisticate. When she brought her concerns to director Billy Wilder, he initially dismissed them. Edith Head knows what she's doing. She's won more Oscars than most people have been nominated for. But this is different, Audrey insisted. Sabrina doesn't just change her clothes, she changes her entire relationship to fashion. She learns to dress like a Parisian. That requires authenticity. Wilder considered this. He was a perfectionist. If authenticity would make the film better, he was interested. What are you suggesting? Let me go to Paris, Audrey said. Let me work with real Parisian designers. Let me bring back clothes that would actually make this transformation believable. It was a reasonable request. But it was also revolutionary, because no major Hollywood star had ever bypassed the studio costume department. Ever. These forgotten stories deserve to be told. If you think so too, subscribe and like this video. Thank you for keeping these memories alive. Wilder, intrigued by the artistic possibilities, agreed. But he warned Audrey, "You'll have to clear this with the front office, and I don't think they're gonna like it." Audrey didn't care if they liked it. She knew what the role needed, and she was willing to fight for it. Spring 1953. Audrey Hepburn arrives in Paris with a mission. She has Paramount's reluctant permission to explore Parisian fashion for Sabrina's post-transformation wardrobe. But she also has strict instructions. Work with established houses, Dior, Balmain, names the studio recognizes, names that carry weight in Hollywood. Audrey has different ideas. She'd heard about a young designer named Hubert de Givenchy. He was only 26. He'd just opened his own fashion house 2 years earlier. He was talented, but unknown, risky, exactly the kind of choice that would make Paramount executives nervous. But Audrey wasn't interested in safe choices. She was interested in authentic transformation. And everything she'd heard about Givenchy suggested he understood elegance in a way that would be perfect for Sabrina. The meeting at Givenchy's salon was supposed to be exploratory, a courtesy call. Audrey would look at his work, maybe commission a dress or two as possibilities. Nothing more. Instead, it changed both their lives forever. When Givenchy saw Audrey, he saw exactly what Sabrina needed to become. Not Hollywood glamour, not studio-manufactured sophistication, but real elegance, authentic Parisian style, the kind of chic that could only come from understanding fashion as art rather than costume. "Tell me about this character," Givenchy said during their first meeting. Audrey explained. Sabrina starts as a servant's daughter, awkward, unfashionable, invisible. She goes to Paris for cooking school but falls in love with fashion instead. Returns to New York transformed, elegant, confident, irresistible. She doesn't just change her clothes, Audrey emphasized. She changes her entire relationship to herself. The clothes have to make that believable. Givenchy understood immediately. This wasn't about creating costumes. It was about creating a woman. Someone whose transformation would be so complete, so authentic, that audiences would believe in the power of fashion to change lives. "I can do this," Givenchy said. But not with a few dresses, the entire wardrobe. Everything she wears after Paris. It has to be a complete vision. Audrey's heart raced. This was exactly what she'd hoped for. But she also knew what it meant. The studio wants me to work with their costume department for most of the wardrobe. They'll only approve a few Parisian pieces. Then the transformation won't work, Givenchy said simply. You can't have authenticity and compromise. Either Sabrina becomes truly Parisian, or she remains Hollywood's version of Parisian, which is not Parisian at all. It was a moment of truth. Audrey could play it safe, work within the system, keep Paramount happy, create a wardrobe that was good enough, or she could take a risk. Trust her instincts, fight for what the role needed. She chose to fight. Design everything, she told Givenchy. The complete post-Paris wardrobe. I'll handle Paramount. Over the next 3 weeks, Givenchy created a wardrobe that was pure magic. Not costumes. Fashion. Real, wearable, devastatingly chic clothes that transformed whoever wore them. Each piece was perfect for Audrey's figure, her personality, her unique style. But more than that, each piece told the story of Sabrina's transformation. The famous black cocktail dress with the boat neckline, the white ball gown with the dramatic train, the simple day dresses that somehow managed to look both casual and elegant. Every piece was a masterclass in sophisticated simplicity. When Audrey tried on the completed wardrobe, she knew Givenchy had created something special. These weren't just clothes. They were Sabrina, the woman she would become on screen, the transformation that would make the film work. But she also knew she was about to start a war with Paramount Pictures. July 1953, Paramount Pictures. Audrey returns from Paris with her Givenchy wardrobe. She's excited, confident, ready to show everyone what authentic Parisian fashion looks like, ready to prove that her instincts were right. The studio's reaction is immediate and furious. What the hell is this? Why Ursanitz? Why Frank Freeman stares at the rail of Givenchy dresses like they're evidence of treason. The Sabrina wardrobe, Audrey says calmly. The post-Paris transformation clothes. These aren't from our costume department. No, they're from Paris, from Givenchy. Exactly what we discussed. Freeman's face turns red. We discussed you getting a few pieces from Paris. Maybe 1 or 2 special dresses, not replacing our entire costume department. The role required authenticity, Audrey explains. Sabrina becomes truly Parisian. These clothes make that transformation believable. Our costume department makes transformations believable, Freeman snaps. Edith Head has won 8 Academy Awards making transformations believable. The confrontation escalates quickly. Freeman calls in Edith Head, production manager Don Hartman, director Billy Wilder. Suddenly, Audrey is facing a room full of studio executives, all united in their fury at her rebellion. Edith Head is professional, but clearly hurt. She's been designing Sabrina's pre-Paris wardrobe, the simple, unglamorous clothes that show Sabrina as a servant's daughter. She assumed she'd also design the post-Paris wardrobe, the glamorous, transformative clothes that would showcase her talent. I don't understand, Head says to Audrey. We've worked together successfully before. On Roman Holiday? You were happy with my work then. I was, Audrey agrees. Your work on Roman Holiday was perfect for Princess Anne. But Sabrina is different. She becomes specifically Parisian. That requires actual Parisian fashion. I can design Parisian fashion, Head replies, offended. You can design Hollywood's version of Parisian fashion, Audrey says diplomatically. But Givenchy designs actual Parisian fashion. There's a difference. The room explodes. Freeman is furious at Audrey's implication that Paramount's costume department can't create authentic fashion. Head is insulted at the suggestion that her work isn't good enough. Wilder is caught in the middle, understanding Audrey's artistic vision, but also needing to maintain relationships with the studio. "This is unacceptable," Freeman declares. "We have contracts with our costume department. We have Oscar winners on staff. We don't hire unknown French designers to replace our people." "I'm not replacing anyone," Audrey protests. "I'm using the right designer for the right role. Edith's pre-Paris wardrobe is perfect. Givenchy's post-Paris wardrobe is perfect. Together, they tell the complete story." "That's not how this works," Freeman snaps. "Our costume designer designs all the costumes. That's the system." "Then maybe the system is wrong." The words hang in the air like a gauntlet thrown down. Audrey Hepburn, a relative newcomer to Hollywood, has just told the most powerful studio in the industry that their system is wrong. That she knows better than they do how to make movies. The silence is deafening. Finally, Freeman speaks. His voice is deadly quiet. "Miss Hepburn, you seem to have forgotten something. You work for Paramount Pictures. We don't work for you. You will use our costume department, or you will be in breach of contract." But Audrey has done her homework. She's read her contract carefully, and she's found something the studio overlooked. "Actually," she says, producing a copy of her contract, "Section 12 gives me consultation rights on wardrobe choices. I have the right to request specific pieces that I feel are necessary for the role." "Consultation rights," Freeman repeats, "not decision rights." "But the studio has to consider my requests in good faith," Audrey continues. "And I'm requesting the Givenchy wardrobe in good faith, because I believe it's necessary for the role." Freeman realizes he's in a difficult position. Audrey is right about the contract language. More importantly, she's the star of the film. Replacing her would be expensive and complicated, and her Roman holiday success has made her valuable. But he can't let this precedent stand. If Audrey gets away with bypassing the costume department, every star will want the same privilege. The system will collapse. "Fine," Freeman says finally. "But there will be consequences." The consequences are swift and brutal. Paramount decides to make an example of both Audrey and Givenchy. They want to send a message. No one challenges the studio system without paying a price. First, they launch a whispering campaign against the Givenchy wardrobe. Studio executives confide to journalists that Audrey's clothes look too foreign for American audiences, that Givenchy's designs are impractical for film work, that the whole thing is a costly mistake. Hedda Hopper, Hollywood's most powerful gossip columnist, publishes a blind item. Which rising star thinks she knows more about costume design than Oscar winners? Insiders say her foreign fashion choices are already causing budget overruns and delays. The attacks aren't just professional. They're personal. Studio insiders spread rumors about Audrey being difficult, demanding, too big for her britches. The kind of whispers that can destroy a career before it really starts. Edith Head, meanwhile, is fighting for her professional life. The most respected costume designer in Hollywood has been publicly rejected by a major star. Her reputation is at stake. Her future projects could be affected. She needs to do damage control. If you want more untold stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Your support means everything to us. Head begins her own campaign. She gives interviews emphasizing her experience, her Oscar wins, her track record of successful collaborations with major stars. She doesn't attack Audrey directly, but the implication is clear. Audrey made a mistake choosing an unknown over a proven professional. Some young actors think they understand fashion better than people who've devoted their careers to it, Head tells Variety. Experience matters. Professionalism matters. I've been doing this for 15 years. I know what works on screen. The pressure on Audrey is enormous. She's not just fighting for her wardrobe choices, she's fighting for her career. If Sabrina fails, if the Givenchy clothes don't work, she'll be blamed. And it could be years before another studio trusts her with a major role. Billy Wilder finds himself in an impossible position. He supports Audrey's artistic vision. He thinks the Givenchy wardrobe is beautiful and appropriate for the role. But he also needs to maintain relationships with the studio and the costume department for future projects. His solution is diplomatic but problematic. He suggests a compromise. Givenchy designs will be featured prominently, but Edith Head will receive full costume designer credit. This protects Head's reputation and acknowledges the studio system while still giving Audrey what she wants. But the compromise creates new problems. How can Head take credit for designs she didn't create? How can Givenchy's contribution be acknowledged without undermining Head's authority? The solution they arrive at is unsatisfactory for everyone. Head will be credited as costume designer. Givenchy will receive a smaller credit for Miss Hepburn's wardrobe. It's technically accurate, but politically loaded. It suggests that Audrey's clothes are somehow separate from the film's overall costume design, that they're a special accommodation rather than an integral part of the production. Givenchy is hurt by the arrangement. He's created what he considers his finest work, but he's being treated like a vendor rather than an artist. His name will appear in small print while Head gets the glory. This isn't how fashion should work, Givenchy tells Audrey during one of their final fittings. Clothes should be credited to the people who designed them. I know, Audrey says. But if we don't compromise, they might not let me work with you at all. And then none of your beautiful designs will be seen. It's a painful but pragmatic decision. Both Audrey and Givenchy swallow their pride for the sake of the film. But both remember the injustice, and both are determined that this won't happen again. September 1954. Sabrina premieres at Radio City Music Hall in New York. The film is a massive success. Critics praise the performances, the direction, the writing, but most of all, they praise the transformation of Sabrina, and specifically her wardrobe. Audrey Hepburn is luminous, writes the New York Times. Her transformation from ugly duckling to sophisticated swan is completely believable, thanks largely to costumes that are authentically Parisian rather than Hollywood's usual approximation of elegance. Variety is even more specific. The post-Paris wardrobe achieves exactly what the story requires: a complete transformation that audiences can believe. These aren't costumes. They're real fashion. Fashion magazines take notice immediately. Vogue runs a feature on the Sabrina look. Harper's Bazaar analyzes every outfit. Women's Wear Daily declares Audrey's wardrobe the most influential film fashion since Gone with the Wind. Most importantly, women start copying Sabrina's style. The black cocktail dress becomes an instant classic. The boat neckline becomes a fashion staple. The overall aesthetic, sophisticated simplicity, elegant restraint, quality over flash, becomes the new ideal of chic. Department stores can't keep Sabrina-style dresses in stock. Patterns based on her wardrobe become bestsellers. Givenchy's fashion house receives orders from around the world from women who want to dress like Sabrina. The impact goes beyond fashion. Sabrina proves that authenticity matters, that audiences can tell the difference between real style and studio approximation, that taking creative risks can pay off spectacularly. But the vindication comes with complications. The Academy Awards are approaching, and everyone expects Edith Head to be nominated for Best Costume Design. She did design Sabrina's pre-Paris wardrobe, and she's being credited as the film's costume designer. But everyone in Hollywood knows that the most praised elements of the wardrobe, the post-Paris clothes that made the transformation believable, were designed by Givenchy. The nomination creates an ethical dilemma. Should Head accept recognition for work she didn't do? Should Givenchy be acknowledged for his contributions? How should the industry handle a situation where the official credits don't match the reality of who created what? The Academy's solution is typically Hollywood. They ignore the complications. Head is nominated. Givenchy is not mentioned. The politics of the studio system override the facts of who designed what. When Head wins the Oscar, her acceptance speech is gracious but incomplete. She thanks Paramount. She thanks Billy Wilder. She mentions working with wonderful performers who understand fashion. But she doesn't mention Givenchy, doesn't acknowledge that the most praised elements of her award-winning work were created by someone else. The omission is noticed. Fashion insiders know the truth. So do many in the film industry. Head's victory feels hollow to anyone who understands what really happened. But for Audrey, the vindication is complete. She trusted her instincts. She fought for what the role needed. She took enormous personal and professional risks. And she was proven right. Sabrina works because of her choices. Her rebellion succeeded. More importantly, she's established a new precedent. Stars can have input into their wardrobes. Authentic fashion can enhance film storytelling. The studio system, while powerful, is not infallible. The Sabrina wardrobe controversy changed everything. Not just for Audrey Hepburn, but for the entire relationship between Hollywood and fashion. Before Sabrina, costume design was purely internal to studios. After Sabrina, fashion houses became legitimate partners in film production. Major designers began creating clothes specifically for movies. Stars gained more control over their wardrobes. Fashion and film developed a symbiotic relationship that continues today. Audrey's partnership with Givenchy became the template for future star designer collaborations. Grace Kelly worked with Helen Rose and later Christian Dior. Elizabeth Taylor partnered with various designers. More recently, costume designers regularly collaborate with fashion houses for specific pieces or entire wardrobes. The influence extends beyond individual partnerships. Modern costume design acknowledges that authenticity matters, that audiences can distinguish between real fashion and approximations, that the best film wardrobes often incorporate actual designer pieces rather than purely studio-created costumes. Fashion houses now see film as a major marketing opportunity. Red carpet appearances, product placement, collaborations with costume designers. The relationship that began with Audrey's rebellion has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. But the human cost was significant. Edith Head's relationship with Audrey was permanently damaged. Head felt betrayed by Audrey's bypass of the costume department. Audrey felt that Head never acknowledged Givenchy's contributions. They worked together on future films, but the warmth and trust were gone. Givenchy, meanwhile, became one of the most successful designers in fashion history. His partnership with Audrey elevated his profile internationally and established his reputation for elegant simplicity. But he never forgot being marginalized on Sabrina. It motivated him to insist on proper recognition for all future collaborations. The Academy Awards never corrected the record. Edith Head's Oscar for Sabrina remains officially hers, even though the most celebrated elements of the wardrobe were designed by Givenchy. It's a reminder that sometimes politics matter more than truth, even in artistic recognition. For modern viewers, Sabrina's fashion legacy is unquestionable. The black cocktail dress is recognized as one of the most iconic costumes in film history. The overall aesthetic continues to influence fashion decades later. The transformation sequence, Sabrina before and after Paris, remains a masterclass in how clothes can drive storytelling. But the real legacy is precedent. Audrey proved that creative vision matters more than hierarchy, that artistic integrity is worth fighting for, that sometimes the right choice is the difficult choice, that authenticity, while expensive and complicated, produces better results than compromise. Today, when major stars insist on specific designers for red carpet appearances, when fashion houses compete to dress celebrities, when costume designers collaborate with luxury brands, they're following the path that Audrey blazed in 1953. She didn't just choose a wardrobe. She chose to challenge a system. She risked her career to trust her instincts. She fought the most powerful studio in Hollywood and won. The revolution that began with one actress's refusal to accept good enough changed how fashion and film intersect forever. Every time you see a designer gown on a red carpet, every time a fashion house partners with a film production, every time authenticity triumphs over expediency, you're seeing the legacy of Audrey Hepburn's rebellion. Paramount Pictures wanted control. Edith Head wanted recognition. The studio system wanted compliance. Audrey Hepburn wanted authenticity, and she was willing to fight for it. That fight changed everything. Forever. This is Audrey Hepburn, The Hidden Truth. From wartime horrors to Hollywood secrets, we uncover what they've been hiding for decades. Subscribe to discover the dark truth behind the elegant image.